Welcome to this C tutorial on relational operator guys. In this video we will learn 6 different types of relational operators. These relational operators play a very important role in coding, especially when we write if and else statements. Before getting into the code straight, here I will like to explain you a very important thing for these kind of operators. For these operators, we only have two conditions, true and false. We always assign a value of 1 for true and 0 to false, and there is no intermediate condition. We will always assign 1 to true and 0 to false. Now let's start the code. For me, this is lab 5, so I will add a file under lab 5 folder task01.c. And on very first line of code, here I am writing the title of this task as a comment, that is relational operators. So let's write the code now. First, we will include standard input output library first, and then we will write the main function int main, and I'm writing here return 0 in between these curly brackets. Now first, I will define the variables. So since we are dealing with the integer data type in this task, so I am writing here int, and we are using two variables, and at the very end of the line I am writing semicolon, and here I am writing the comment defining variables. And since we are dealing with the relational operators, so I am assigning the value to variable a and b. I am assigning different values, a is equal to 2 and b is equal to 4. And now let's write the very first relational operator, that is a equal to b. And then I am writing here %d, that is the format specifier for integer data type. And after these inverted commas, I will write here a comma and I will type a equal to b. That is a relational operator that basically checks if the value of a is equal to b or not. We know that a is not equal to b because value of a is 2 and value of b is 4. At the start of the video, we learned that we assign a 1 value to true and 0 to false. And as we know that this statement is false, so there must be a 0 in the terminal. And as you can see here, a equal to b is equal to 0 because this is a false statement. Now let's change the values of a and b such that they are still not equal. And I'm running the code again, and there should be 0 in the terminal, and it is a 0. Now let's make these values equal, and there must be 1 because this is a true statement. Now I'm changing it back again, and now there must be 0 in the output, and it is. So we have learned that this equal relational operator basically checks if a is equal to b or not. Now let's learn another relational operator that checks if a is not equal to b. So we will here writing a not equal to b. This is basically the sign for not equal. And here I am writing the same a not equal to b. And since we want to print this line on a separate line, so here I am adding \n. And now let's run this code. And this should be true because a is not equal to b, because value of a is 4 and value of b is 2, and these are not equal. So here I'm adding the comment that if a is not equal to b. Okay, now let's move on to the third relational operator that checks if a is greater than b or not. So here I'm writing a greater than b, and here I'm again adding the format specifier for integer data type, and here I'm writing that relation a greater than b. And here I am adding \n so that we get the output on separate line. And as you can see, this is true. It is because value of a is 4 and value of b is 2. And we know that 4 is greater than 2, and we assign one value to true. And now let's move on to the third relational operator that basically checks if a is less than b or a is smaller than b. So let's add here a comma and a less than b. So if I run this code, and we have got the output on the same line, so we have to add here \n so that we can get the output on separate line, and here it is. And we have got the correct response from the code because a is actually greater than b, so it has assigned a 0 value to it. Now moving on to the fifth relational operator that basically checks two things: if a is greater or if a is equal to b. If any of these statements gets true, we will get a 1 in the output. And as we know that A is basically greater than B, so this must be 1, and it is a 1 because 4 is greater than 2. So here I'm adding a comment: if A is greater than or equal to B. And we are done with the 5 relational operators. Moving on to the final 6th relational operator that basically checks if A is less than or equal to B. So this operator will also check two things: if A is less than B or if A is equal to B. If any of this statement gets true, we will get 1 in the output. And if we run this code, we must be getting a 0 in the output in the final line, and it is. So that's all for this video, guys. See you in the next video.